Okay, today's video is a quick one because I have a gazillion questions. These are my pages. So my questions are on the Karen Reed trial. I was following that when I was traveling, and I just felt like maybe she had accidentally hit him. So the case is where there's a group of people that went out drinking, and then they left the bar and were headed to a house after the first to continue drinking, visiting, whatever's. And so Karen was in the car. Supposedly, John got out of the car, was going to check and about going in the house before she followed. She wasn't sure if she was welcome, was her side of the story that I understood. So some of my questions overlap both because the first trial ended in a hung jury. The second one is currently underway. So some of my questions I'll try to clarify what one's from which trial, but if I don't, just know that it may overlap a little bit. So I've been crocheting and watching the case on TV. So here are some of my questions, and I'll just go through it, try to make some sense of this. So the first one is, why is the FBI involved? They started investigating during the first case, but of course we don't know why. Is it the accident itself? Is it the prosecution side? What the heck are they investigating? There was another case, the Birchmore case, where the lady was found dead in the same town. It was initially ruled as suicide, then it was decided that it was murder, and there's currently a police officer in jail, but he has not been tried for that case. But he's not in the same police department from what I understand. So I don't understand how this all overlaps other than the investigators in the Karen Reed case. I don't know. I got a lot of questions. Where and why are the missing videos? There was video missing from a library, which would have shown her taillight. It's missing. What the heck? Why? And then there was no video collected from the neighbors around the house. They could have at least seen cars coming and going, would have seen her taillight. Oh, so that for the people that don't know about the case, her taillight, there's video of her hitting John's car in the driveway the next morning. She said it was cracked. There's been testimony this case that it was cracked. When then other people show up and it's like big chunks missing. There's a big difference from that. So what the heck? And then John's house, some of his videos missing from what I understand. That's weird. And then his socks have not come up in evidence this trial or last trial. Where the heck are they? There is one picture where one of them is on backwards at the hospital. How the heck did that happen? And let's see. And then his shoes, they're super clean, but he had blood on his shirt and vomit in his underwear from what's been reported. Why are the shoes clean? There should have been some blood drops or something. They look like they are brand new from the store, and there was none of his DNA on his shoes. How the heck does that happen? There should have been some of his DNA on the shoes. That's super weird. Nobody came out of the house. He was found in the yard of the house where they were headed to. Why? And nobody saw him on the yard that night. Supposedly she hit him in the 12:30-ish range. People were coming and going out of that house until after around 2-ish in the morning. Nobody saw him laying in the yard. That's super weird. And about midnight, according to the weatherman that's testified this time, there was enough snow to track a cat. So just a dusting of what we call it in the Midwest of snow. So it's weird. And then the next morning when the ambulances were on the yard, nobody came out of the house. That's weird. Flashing lights. People should be checking that out. Our basic instinct is like, what the heck's going on? And then this police investigation just seemed super sloppy. Is that the way they do all of them, or was it more intentional? They collected blood evidence in Solo cups, put it in a Stop and Shop bag so they weren't covered. That's just super. They used a leaf blower to try to find stuff in the snow later. Super weird. Wonder if that's how they do this all the time. Okay, so the coroner ruled the case as undetermined. So why was it even filed? This whole thing is just so weird. And then people were butt dialing and butt answering. That doesn't make sense. It just feels like some stuff is not, I don't know if they're lying, but stuff is kind of covered up. It just feels weird. And then Higgins, one of the characters in the case, had been flirting with Karen. His phone, he handed over some messages, but he busted his phone up and disposed of it on military base. That was in the last trial. But that's super weird. And then he said last time that he went to the police station after they've been drinking, after he leaves his house, to move cars. He moved one car, but is in and out of multiple vehicles, and was seen with a bag and was seen talking on his phone. Super weird. We don't know what the heck was going on there. There's a lot of weird. I haven't heard any testimony in either trial about geofencing. There was talk about where they requested a geofence, but it wasn't continued. It was just real sloppy. They didn't ask for iPhone and Android. It was just Android. Everybody that was in the house had iPhones. Very suspicious. Let's see. Both Higgins and one of the Alberts disposed of their phones instead of turning them over. Like I said, Higgins turned over part of his. What was the big deal about getting rid of phones? Very, very suspicious. And then there was a dog, Chloe. Some of the injuries on one of John's arms, he only had one injury on his arm. The first trial I thought maybe it was scratches, but I've since seen autopsy photos. They look deeper than a scratch. And there was a dog that was supposedly in the house at the time. Now the dog's disappeared. Nobody has really talked about the dog as far as where she's at. She's been rehomed like multiple times. We don't know exactly where. That has come up in both trials. But nobody seems to have seen her that night. That seems kind of weird. People should have heard barking or whatever. And she has a history of biting people to the point they've had to go to the hospital. That's suspicious. And it's weird that nobody saw John in the yard before the snow piled up, because they kept making it sound in the first trial like there was like a foot of snow. A skift, a dusting of snow is not a pile of snow. And he was big. He was 200 pounds plus, and he was around 6 foot-ish. So they should have been able to see him. No one measured the distance from this flagpole area where he was found to the road. And it's been thrown out everything from 10 feet to 15 feet. Nobody knows, because no crime scene measurements were taken. We don't have good ideas. That's been both trials. That's just super weird. There was reports, and that has come up in both trials, that, well, on this trial, I don't know that it came up the first time. There was blood on his t-shirt, and there was vomit in his underwear. He was found supposedly on his back. So how did all that get on the front of him? Makes sense with a head injury to have vomit, but supposedly he fell back and didn't get back up because the injury to the back of his head would have disabled him, according to the coroner and the neurosurgeon. That the neurosurgeons knew for this second trial. That seems kind of weird. And if it was on the front of him, why didn't he get on the shoes? Super weird. And then Jen, this time I didn't hear it last time. This is Jennifer McCabe, testified that on the 911, well, she didn't testify, it was on her 911 call. She's saying that they rolled him over. Was he laying flat on his stomach? Was he laying on his side? He has an injury to the back of his head that caused skull fractures. So, did he land on his back or on his face? He has 2 black eyes, which the neurosurgeon said that could have been from the injury to the back of the head. However, it looks like he was in a fight, but, suspicious. And then he had no frostbite on his fingers, his ears, or his nose. But he was laying out in the snow, suffered from hypothermia. Why no frostbite? I don't know. And how long does it take body temp to drop? They're saying that Karen hit him around 12:30-ish. He wasn't found till 5 in the morning. That's a pretty extensive period of time, but nobody has come up in either trial that I have heard. And then there was the snowplow driver, Lucky, who plowed, and he didn't see John laying in the yard, but he did see another car. Who does that car belong to? It was parked right about where John's body was found. Why didn't they see him? And whose car is that? And why wasn't that checked out? And then there was this dude, Burgess, from Aperture. He was an employee, and he basically lied about his education. There's no point in that. Why? But then can he be trusted? And he got bits and bytes mixed up, blamed it on somebody else, then realized it was his error. And I just don't know if he can be trusted. And then he also did this copy and paste thing where he sent a report to the prosecution, and it's saying that the prosecution requested it. He said it was a copy and paste. He also made a phone call to the prosecution on the 7th, but in court, Brennan, the prosecutor, was saying he didn't know about this report to the 8th. Again, that's shady. Come on. One day is not a big deal. Come on, just be honest. He didn't mention that 7th at all. Let's see. And then also this Burgess dude had the wrong date on this report that he filed on the 8th and kept talking about the 30th, that John was found on the 30th. John was found on the 29th. The previous morning was the 28th. And this dude got it all confused and was going 29th to 30th instead of 28th, 29th. Can any of his information be trusted? It's just all jacked up. And then John's injuries, I just can't come up with any scenario that makes it make sense. He's got the eyes, which could relate to the head. Okay, I got that. But he's got these deep, more than just a scratch, more of a laceration to his one arm. He's got a scratch area or laceration by his eye. He's got a bruise on the back of one hand that looks like an IV start kind, but according to the coroner, they didn't use that in the hospital. They did an IO and the direct line in the groin. So none of it's making sense to me. So if you guys have any ideas, I'm open. Otherwise, I'm just kind of putting this out there to see if anybody's got answers to my questions. Because so far this is all definitely reasonable doubt, but I would like to know what the truth is. It'd be nice if we could just get to the truth. Anyway, thanks, y'all. And if you got comments and answers, I'd appreciate it. Thanks.